All right, everyone. It is the NFL draft. And with the fifth pick in the draft, the Seattle Seahawks have selected Devon Witherspoon from Illinois. We are joined with Locked On Seahawks host Corbin Smith. I am Jourdan Black. We will get to you in a minute, Corbin. But first, Locked On NFL draft coverage is presented by Ultimate Football GM. You think you can run an NFL franchise? Well, visit ultimate-gm.com to play the ultimate NFL GM simulation game and start your dynasty today. Corbin, you were mentioning that this is not a surprise pick for folks outside of the building. So take us inside this pick. Why is it not a surprise? Tell us what we need to know about the pick that the Seahawks made tonight.
First, you just look at Devon Witherspoon's film, and he just screams Seahawks. He is a menace on the outside that is looking to inflict punishment on opponents. Seattle loves physical players, especially at the cornerback spot. Mike Jackson was really good at left corner last year compared to expectations, but he's a former late-round pick that bounced around, was a practice squad guy. They needed another player across from Tariq Woolen. They could really upgrade this secondary. Witherspoon's going to be able to do that. And then you add in the fact that he not only had a top 30 visit with the team, they also met with him at the combine. He was a player that they've been intrigued by the entire pre-draft process. So the interest, this was more than just smoke. They certainly were looking at him atop their big board. And with Jalen Carter no longer being on their big board, apparently, they decided to go with a player that has a better character screening in Devon Witherspoon that also is going to check off all the other boxes they're looking for in the secondary.
Well, you mentioned the secondary, and now this is the second year in a row that they're drafting a cornerback. So how much does this elevate that room now, having kind of a cornerback duo, kind of having that tandem for you?
I think the Seahawks are looking at this as an opportunity where your defensive line, your pass rush, and the secondary, they have a marriage together. And Seattle's now looking at it. We're going to try to help the pass rush by making our secondary even better rather than picking a pass rusher or a defensive tackle early in the draft. And they're trying to build another Legion of Boom, maybe a different nickname this time around. But they are banking on Witherspoon taking it already really good secondary with Tariq Woolen, a healthy Jamal Adams, and Quandre Diggs, and elevating it to a whole other level, being one of the top secondaries in football. And if they are able to do that, that is going to have a positive ripple effect on their pass rush that has been hit and miss the last couple of years. They're going to be better by default just with having that many sticky players in the secondary that can shut down passing games. And so that's what they're hedging their bets on right now, that they're going to have such a good secondary that it's by default going to make that pass rush better, and then the entire defense should benefit from that.
I imagine a lot of folks in Seattle haven't watched or seen a number of Illinois games, but what can people expect from Witherspoon's game, and how has his game been elevated by playing against other teams in the Big Ten, the Ohio States, the Michigans of the Big Ten?
Well, for one thing, he is a plus run defender, and you're going to get a lot of exposure in the rugged Big Ten to stopping the run. If you can't stop the run at any position on defense, you are going to get ran over in the Big Ten. So Devon Witherspoon had to quickly learn about that, and he cut his teeth as a special teams player when he first got into college. And that has to be another thing that really jumped out to Seattle. They like players with solid all-around games like that. Late to football, started playing his junior year in high school. So there's a lot of different factors at play here when you're looking at this potential fit. But this is a guy, again, he is a menace on the outside. He obliterates receivers and running backs. You can look at every single game Illinois played last year. There's at least one hit where you're like, was that a linebacker? With his ability to just level guys, he plays with a little bit of an ingredient of reckless abandon at times that can get him into a little bit of trouble. But more times not, that aggressiveness is why he is so good. And he was a consensus first-team All-American selection. So Seattle is getting a very good all-around player that can stop the run. He can play man and zone coverage. He's got really good ball skills, more interceptions than touchdowns given up in college. There's a lot of reasons why Seattle was enamored by him. Again, this is not a pick that is surprising inside the building here. People outside might be like, a corner, really? But Seattle has loved this kid all along. So I certainly was not surprised that they went with this selection.
The finest of compliments for a guy in the secondary. Was that a linebacker? Now, Seattle has 10 total picks, 4 of the first 52. What other needs do the Seahawks have? What are you expecting them to do as the draft continues?
Well, since they passed on Jalen Carter, they still need to find defensive tackles in bunches with the last 9 picks they have. They currently only have 3 healthy defensive tackles on their roster. Their only nose tackle, Brian Monet, is coming back from a torn ACL. So I would think pick 20 that they're going to be looking heavily at defensive tackle. That is something they're really going to have to attack. And maybe a linebacker for the future. They could look at a third receiver as well. And running back is another position. I don't know that they'll go in the first 2 rounds, but they don't have much depth behind Ken Walker the third. They only have 2 running backs on their roster. So those would be 4 that jump out to me right now that I think Seattle is going to be aggressive addressing now that they've upgraded their secondary with Devon Witherspoon.
Well, exciting things on the horizon. Corbin, thank you. For more on the Seahawks, you can tune into Locked On Seahawks. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Corbin, appreciate your insight.